And yet, the Congress does nothing. The President does nothing, but continue the same stay-the-course mentality.
I mean, he's talked about now about starting to have a drawdown.
Well, this drawdown, we have to understand for what it is. It is the military that is starting to crumble. They are destroying our military because of the war in Iraq. Wait, you're saying that the war itself, Iraq, and the policies that the government and President Bush is leading is destroying its own military? Have you seen anything else that's killing U.S. service members? I haven't. But the war in Iraq is definitely killing U.S. service members. It's definitely keeping people from signing up for the military. It's definitely forcing people like myself who served for 9 years to go AWOL. I went AWOL for the last 9 months of my military contract because I could no longer in good conscience every day wake up and put on a military uniform. I couldn't do it. And so I left my military unit. And granted, I was in the Guard and didn't face as much retribution as some of the others who have done that on active duty. But the fact of the matter is, yes, the Iraq war is hurting our military. And what this withdrawal is not a backing down of troops. It is coming to a breaking point of the fact they cannot replace them. Follow their logic. They say the surge is working, although Petraeus recently came out and said that, oh, he was wrong about that, the surge isn't working. But the fact is they say that. The surge is working. Well, wouldn't you want to continue that then if it is working? If their logic holds true, then they would be trying to put more and more troops there. But they don't have the troops to do it. They cannot. They've already interrupted troop rotations in order to have this supposed surge, this escalation, and now those troops are worn out. They need to be brought home, and they don't have any troops to send in their stead. And we're looking at the breakdown of the military from inside, which is unfortunate. As someone who thinks that our country needs to be defended here at home, and watching our military being torn apart and destroyed in Iraq is very painful.
Now, Al, when there is hopefully an end, when there is the end to the war, to the occupation, and we have our troops coming home, and I know that with the loss of your son, you won't have that. Will you be looking at the Iraqi people in Iraq and where they're going to be at the end of this?
Well, we certainly have an obligation to the Iraqi people to help them rebuild that country after what we've done there. You know, the responsibility of my son's death is squarely on this administration's shoulders, you know. It's, you know, he was sent to a foreign land, to a country invaded, a preemptive war. So, you're asking about what we should do about the Iraqi? Yeah, well,
in Iraq.
Definitely. We definitely need to rebuild that country and to, you know, we've devastated that country. I mean, these people have no water, they have no electricity. They're, you know, well, we can get into other things, but I mean, there's depleted uranium issue, you know, which a lot of soldiers, a lot of military personnel have. What about the Iraqi people where they're living with this stuff?
Do you think that with us leaving before all the schools are rebuilt, all the hospitals are rebuilt, that is going to put over too much of a burden on the Iraqi people?
Put too much of a burden on them?
To leave it up for them to repair. I mean, if we leave now, I mean, other than, well, how do you plan on those reparations?
Obviously, I mean, we're there now, and it's getting more and more chaotic over there. People are getting killed, things are being destroyed, children can't go to school because they get kidnapped. I mean, it's you know, just by us leaving Iraq, but that's not enough. I mean, we should leave Iraq, but we should be helping the Iraqi people.
How?
By helping to rebuild.
Well, I think that,
you know, by having supporting Iraqi's neighbors to go in there and give them the resources to rebuild that country.
I think if you look at the history of where occupation has ended in the past, and we see where it has been successful and where it has been dreadfully unsuccessful, and we need to look, Dr. Polk has written a series of books about this, Dr. William Polk. He's also written a book called Out of Iraq. with former Senator McGovern. And the fact is that what we believe in Iraq Veterans Against the War is a three-tiered item line here, which is the first demand is an immediate end of the war, an immediate withdrawal of all occupying forces. The second thing is making sure those soldiers are taken care of when they come home. And the third part could be the linchpin to what we believe in, which is making sure that reparations are paid to the Iraqi people for the damages done to their country. If you look at what happened at post-World War II and the fact that Israel was able to start and become a global superpower that it is today because largely reparations payments that were made from Germany. There was reparations payments that have been made to the to Northern Ireland from the English, reparations payments that have been made in South Africa, reparation payments that have been made here in the United States to Japanese Americans interned after World War II. All of these were to not only make up for what has been done, but help to rebuild the infrastructure that was destroyed. Reparations are not sympathy payments. Reparations are making sure that the country that we're talking about, in this case Iraq, has the infrastructure that can develop them as a nation, because right now we're not a pottery barn. Right now we're a bull in a china shop. And we are wreaking havoc. We need to get the bull out of the china shop, make sure that the bull's okay because he didn't want to be in the china shop in the first place, and then make sure that we paid for all the china that we broke. That's the proper analogy, not this pottery barn nonsense that Colin Powell came up with. The fact is that when we talk about Iraqis not being able to take care of Iraq, that really has to be understood for the racism that it is. It's a 21st century white man's burden. And that we have to understand in this country that America can't be the great white savior going in to teach brown people how to have democracy. Brown people had democracy long before America ever existed, and they probably will long after America ceases to exist.
The important thing is that
we're getting ready to wrap up, so if you'd like
the first thing that we need to give the Iraqi people is their right to self-determination. After that, we can start talking about the resources they need to rebuild and making sure that they have that. But they'll never have their right to self-determination with our military presence there the way it is today.
Mary, any last statement that you'd like to make?
My last statement is that I admire all of you sitting here tonight, and you give me courage to add my voice to yours. And I want to say thank you.
Al, like a parting statement that you'd like to leave everybody with?
Well, there's over, what, 3,800? I used to throw those numbers around. 3,800 Americans have been killed. Military personnel have been killed in Iraq. That number doesn't even, I mean, we know families, we have families, and military families speak out. People have come home, they've committed suicide, they self-medicated themselves so much and put themselves in dangerous situations where they've been killed. The first Gulf War, I think it's over a quarter of the people that served in that four-day war, that four-day ground war, are now receiving disability, are on some form of disability funding. What is it going to cost this country? Not only in the loss of life and the shattered lives of people, but every American in this country is going to pay for this war for years to come.
Well, I'm really honored that you came on the show tonight. I'm really honored.
Thank you.
With what
I'm
you've sacrificed.
To be with everyone here.
And Jeff, any final?
Just simply in summation of everything that we've talked about today, it's that the occupation of Iraq needs to end for the good of the Iraqi people, for the good of the American people, and for the good of the world community. And until that happens, we continue to put the world in danger, Iraq in danger, and America in danger. And people really need to understand that when we oppose the war, we do it because we love this country and because we want to see this country safe and we want to see the world safe.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. This will be wrapping up for the first out of 4 parts of a series concerning Iraq. We'll be back on next Wednesday for the next part of the series. We'll also be back on Friday where we'll be talking about immigration and where that is in our society here in America. And I really, really appreciate everybody being on tonight.